I think Rosalie is bad. I think Rosalie is one of the more complex characters in Twilight, and likewise her morality reflects that. It is complex. I do think there is a disconnect between how negatively the narrative frames her and what we are led to believe makes her bad versus her actual actions and behavior. Rosalie is the one Cullen who is actually framed negatively in story, very misogynistically. I have said Rosalie is my favorite Cullen, but she is certainly not unproblematic. And though I would not consider her to be morally superior, she is not worse than the rest of the Cullens like we're led to believe. She is simply the most honest. In some ways, I do believe her to be better, and while she does have faults, which I will get to, her incriminating behavior is not in how she treats Bella. I would say Rosalie does much better by Bella overall than the rest of the Cullens do. None of the Cullens actually care about humans. These vampires don't. The Cullens just cosplay. They are inherently selfish. The text, particularly Midnight Sun, demonstrates this clearly. Human life is very disposable to them. They really don't view humans as people, and they care about their own desires and wants. Rosalie is not different. She just doesn't pretend to care, and I think her relationship to Bella reflects her complex relationship to humanity. In that Rosalie doesn't particularly like or care about humans, but she does value human life more than most. Rosalie is the only Cullen who has never tasted human blood. She unalived all her attackers right after she was turned, but never tasted their blood. She has amazing self-control, and while I do believe most of the Cullens directly or indirectly follow the vegetarian diet mostly for Carlisle, Rosalie, I believe, does not drink human blood to separate herself from vampires. She wants to be as human as possible, and she doesn't want to do what vampires do. I also think that it is competitive for her, and she likes having the cleanest record. Rosalie doesn't have any desire to harm humans, and she appreciates the value of human life and respects it to an extent, but she doesn't make any pretenses of the humans themselves being of any particular importance to her. Likewise, she never made any pretense of particularly liking or caring about Bella. That being said, she never tried to or wanted to hurt her, and did as much as we reasonably could have expected her to help Bella. Rosalie tried to stop Edward from pursuing Bella from the beginning because she knew that he was dooming her from the start, because there was no way a human would refuse him. She voted no and tried to warn Bella that giving up her life at 18 to join their miserable human cosplay cult was not the move, and that she was too young and too manipulated to make a rational decision about something like that. She didn't ingratiate her and love bomb her like the rest of the family and make it more appealing to her. I do not think she was wrong for that. To speak plainly, Bella was manipulated. Her choice was only an illusion, and anyone who tried to stop her would have been right in that sentiment. That being said, I don't even think Rosalie went too far in this instance, and I don't consider anything she did to be imposing her ideals on Bella or making choices for her. Like, she didn't physically restrain her or disable her car or trick her or lie to her like Edward and Alice did. She simply voted no and didn't sugarcoat. I do not fault her for that. I also see the argument that Rosalie was a hypocrite for not wanting Bella to turn, but she wanted to turn Emmett. I disagree with that. I think you could make something of an argument for hypocrisy, but not with this example. Rosalie wanting to turn Emmett, and she did not turn him, by the way, Carlisle turned him, but she wanted to. That was selfish, and she admits that herself. Vampires are selfish. And I have spoken at length about how stupid I think this origin story is, and how Stephanie didn't even give Rosalie a good reason for wanting to turn Emmett. However, this is an entirely different situation than Bella's. Emmett was dying. Bella was choosing that life and choosing to die at 18. I think a better, though not perfect, argument for hypocrisy would be Rosalie resenting Carlisle for turning her, and then she wanted to turn Emmett, although that is still not quite the same thing. I do consider what Carlisle does repeatedly and how he does it to be different than something Rosalie admits she did selfishly when she was very young. The Rosalie we meet is much older with much more perspective, and I don't think what happened with Emmett all those years ago invalidates her feelings about Bella's situation at all, because they're completely different. I also do not particularly fault Rosalie for her handling of the demon pregnancy, and certainly do not consider her to be worse than the rest of the Cullens in this situation, because as far as her actions, she did exactly what Bella asked her to do. Bella specifically sought out Rosalie, asked her to protect her during the pregnancy, and prioritize Little Reservatorium, and that is exactly what Rosalie did. Was Rosalie simply excited with the prospect of a baby and totally content with the possibility that Bella might kick the bucket and she would get to raise Ryan Seacrest as her own? Yes, but she was perfectly honest about that, and she never did anything to hurt Bella or ensure her demise. She prioritized the safety and survival of Redbubble, and that is exactly what Bella wanted her to do. It's not like she told Bella to get impregnated. She tried to stop her from getting involved with Glitter Clown in the first place, but at that point, what is she really supposed to do? To be clear, as you know, I revile this whole cursed pregnancy Wattpad AU fanfic plot that is the demon pregnancy, and I do not think Bella was making rational decisions, but if you fault Rosalie for this, I raise you. Would you have preferred her not to do what Bella asked? Would you have preferred she say, strap her down and forcibly terminate Rosalie against her will? Because that's what Edward was going to do with Carlisle's help had Rosalie not been her bodyguard. Would you have rather she done that, or would you have faulted her for that too? Are Rosalie's desires often selfish? Yes, all of the vampires are. Did she particularly care about Bella? No, none of them do, but she didn't pretend to, and all that withstanding, she never tried to hurt her. She did exactly what she asked. Is she wrong for doing what Bella asked? Well, I certainly wouldn't say she's worse than the people who led her to this situation, which in all fairness, Rosalie did try to stop. Rosalie is not more selfish than the rest of the Cullens. In some ways, I would say she's less selfish, and she's definitely more honest. Is she perfect? Certainly not. She's just as guilty and complicit as the rest of the Cullens in their general BS and selfishness and racism, like their selfish, entitled, destructive presence in Forks. In Breaking Dawn, she engages in the very racist dog, mutt, and mongrel rhetoric against Jacob and the Wolfpack, and she literally serves Jacob a dog bowl. But, of course, as negatively as Rosalie is framed, those things are never even presented as bad. So, is Rosalie unproblematic? No. Morally superior? No. Is she the worst? Also no. Complex and interesting? I would say so, yes. I think there are valid reasons to enjoy Rosalie as a character, and there are a few valid reasons not to like her as a character. But the fandom's general tendency to forgive Carlisle, Edward, etc., and criticize Rosalie harshly is not based on any critical examination of their actual actions or behavior, but regurgitation of the misogynistic narrative.